We're learning as chutz for Shalema, Lilan Chai Basarach, one of the top, 2 lines in the top on Yud Amid Beis. Tana Rabban, Asher Nasi Yechta. The pasuk, when it discusses when the special carbon of the Nasi, the lashon uses Asher Nasi Yechta. When the Nasi is chayt, Amrav Yeshua Yechim ben Zakai, Asher Ador Asher Nasi Shaloi Mevi Carbon Asher Gasei. It's laudatory that a dar has a nasi that brings a carbon. Im nasi shaloi maybe carbon tzarchat aloymer. Im nasi shaloi maybe carbon tzarchat aloymer. Mao hadjit. If the nasi brings, the nasi is on top of everyone. If he, with his whole position, is still careful to bring his carbon, certainly a hadjit will do so as well. We're on the top of Yud Amid Beis, about 6 lines to the top. Maybe carbon maus dainai. And if this is a very strange kavachaimer. He says if the nasi brings a carbon when he does something b'shaygig, certainly he'll do tshuva when he does a zaden. Now, when a person does something b'shaygig, I don't think he feels so guilty. He could be a big tzaddik and do something b'shaygig. But I say a shaygig is not an einus. A shaygig there's some responsibility. Matzkav la Rava braid the Rava. El miata d'chsiv es asher chata min hakodesh yishalem. It says the gabi miila. It says that someone who's chayta. It says va'asher. We're saying asher nosi yechta, that he was chayta. So we darshan asher as a lashon of ashrei. So he's saying once you're saying asher is a lashon of ashrei that he's gebenched, what about it says by miila asher chatam and hakodesh yishalem b'yeravam ben Nevat was the big rasha of sibei asher chatav asher hechtia that he was chayta and he caused other to be machtia sarabim. You say about him it's ashrei hadar hachanavi the ashrei hadar who so k'mashani hacha the shnei kra b'dibur darsh. The Shnei Kabba Dibura, that it was already, the pasuk had already said, this is our psukim, and all of them said v'im, I think v'im ish or v'im, it says the different lashon, but now all of a sudden it pops up with asher, so v'im nefesh. We kept on saying v'im nefesh achad does this, v'im nefesh achad. Then all of a sudden we say asher, so that's why we darshan asher to mean ashrei. There is a emptiness, a vanity that's done on the earth. This is all in Koheles. The tzaddikim are blessed when they get treated like the Rishayim. Shal olam haba, olam hazeh. When the tzaddikim, as we've seen many times throughout Shas, that the Gemara says that tzaddikim don't get much in Olam Hazeh because that's all being saved up for Olam Haba. So we say it's very good when a tzaddik gets that the life or the consequence that's coming to the Rishayim in Olam Haba, he gets it in Olam Hazeh. In other words, when a tzaddik has a Yisurim in Olam Hazeh, it's a good thing for him. And it's terrible for Rishayim who have it good in this world, because it just means in the end they're going to suffer more. Amar Rava says back, Rava disagrees. He has more of a contemporary view of things. He says it's nishas a gefelach. A tzaddik can also have. Is it hated that a tzaddik should also have a little bit of Olam Hazeh? Elam Rava, so Rava darshans the pasuk differently. Asherim l'tzaddikim shemagia aleim kamasei rishayim shel Olam Hazeh ba'Olam Hazeh. The gebenched tzaddikim are those that get some Olam Hazeh in this world. Oilahem l'rishayim shemagia aleim kamasei tzaddikim shel Olam Hazeh ba'Olam Hazeh. And it's terrible for the Rishayim, even though it still remains normative, that tzaddikim have less Olam Hazeh than Rishayim. And the Rasha, who doesn't even get Olam Hazeh, he's left with nothing. Papa Huna Breder of Yeshua Asul Kamei Rava Amalhu Ukimtun Mesechta Plan or Mesechta Plan said, have you completed these Mesechtas? Have you learned? Amrulay in said yes. He said, Atrisu Porta said, did you make a little bit of money? Amrulay in. They said yes. The Zava Katina de Ara. We bought a small plot of land. Karalayo, they said about him, Ashrayim l'tzadika shemagi aleim k'maiser rishayim sheba'olam hazeh, ba'olam hazeh. He learned, like Rava had said, it's taka good. He said, you tzadikim, you did your learning first, and then you got a little bit of land to support you. That's the best thing. You have a lot of olam. You have a lot of olam haba coming to you because you're learning, and you also have some olam hazeh. The Maharsha says that the emphasis of this Gemara is that they were not excessive in their olam hazeh. They just says they had a small plot of land. They didn't go to Costa Rica for Pesach with the program. Amr Rabba Bar Chana Amr Rabbi Yochanan Ma'idich Siv Ki Yisharm Derech Hashem Sadikim Yelchu Bam U'Poishim Yikashlu Bam. Pasuk says the ways, the Darchei Hashem, the paths of Hashem are justified, that tzaddikim go on them, and those who do sin will stumble on them. Mashal shnei bnei adam shetzolu pischayim. Two people roasted their carbon pesach. Echad achal l'shom mitzvah, v'echad achal l'shom achilas gasa. One they had in mind the mitzvah, and one had in mind just for the pleasure of it. Zeh shachal mitzvah tzaddikim yelchu bam. Zeh shachal l'shom achilas gasa. Those who do Avera will stumble. It's obviously, this is very strange. It makes us feel very guilty about a Shabbos we had this week. Amalei Rish Lakish, Rasha Karaslay. You're calling him a Rasha because he had in mind Achil Gasi, he was enjoying the Karban Pesach. He was Yitz's Karban Pesach. He doesn't have to have in mind B'dafka not to have Hana. Ella mashal shnei bnei adam. He says it's a different mashal. Shnei bnei adam. Ze ishtei v'achoyse yimay b'bayis. Ze ishtei v'achoyse yimay b'bayis. They both have their wife and their sister in the house with them. This damlei ishtei. Echad is damlei ishtei. V'echad is damlei achoyse. One was mizavik with his wife, and one was mizavik with his sister. It's just damlei ishtei tzadikim yelchubam. Ze damlei achoyse poishim yikashlubam. In fact, the Gemara, me dummy. What kind of tushtel is this? It's almost hard to grasp. We're talking about a tzaddik and a rasha both go on the same derech, and the tzaddik veered in one way and the rasha went another. This is not the same path. One did an avera and one did a mitzvah. So how could you compare them? The mashal is to Lot and his two daughters. The daughters, they were ba on Lot in the cave because they thought the world had been destroyed. They wanted to repopulate the world. Tzadikim yelchubam, so they were tzadikim. Hushan iskav l'shem avera, since he had in mind an avera, he was lecherous. He stumbled. How do we know why? Why are we assuming that he was that he had a worse kavana? He was intending to do an avera. If you look at the actual pasuk that describes light, there's many references in it that we're going to explain that show that he was doing an avera. Pasuk says, "Vayisa loit es ein avayar." It's called kikar hayadin kikula mashkel from the shachas Hashem esleim v'samoyer kagan Hashem keret tzayim b'yachatzoyer. So we take apart the pasuk. Vayisa oisam. Vayisa loit. It says Vayisa loit. That's a mashmoyis also. That's a mashmoyis of Horayos, because it says Vatisa eishes adoinav eseineh. Vatisha eishes adoinav eseineh. Vatisha eishes adoinav. It says by Yosef with Eishes Peitifar that she lifted up her eyes. It says a Lashon Vatisa. So that's similar to Lashon Vayisa loit. Eseineh, and it says in our pasuk. Vayisa loit eseineha eseinav. I'm sorry, eseinav is also a lashon of Horayos. It says Vayom Shimshon oisa kachli ki hi yeshara be'enai. Shimshon said about Delilo, that he asked them to get her for him because she is good in my eyes. So you see, the lashon be'ena is also a lashon of Horayos. Vayar, and it says over here by Loit Vayar, and it says Vayar oisam Shechem ben Chamor. It says by Shechem ben Chamor when he took Dinah that he saw. Also lashon of Vayar. As Kol Kikar HaYarden, it says that Loit saw the whole plain or the valley of Yarden, and we see Kibad Isha Zaina, when someone who gets involved in a Isha Zaina, Ad Kika Lechem, he's going to be finished until he has nothing left. It's going to eat up even his last bit of bread. And it says Kikula Mashka, it was all well watered. And we see Elcha Achrei Me'oya V'Ainois Nilachmi Omeimei Tzmari Upishti Shamni V'Shakui. This is in I think Shir Hashirim. He says he's going to go after my Oyavai, the Isha that he was lusting after, and she's going to give me lechem and water and smarim and wool and linen and oil and drinks. So it says meimei. So we see mayim is also a reference to znos. Practical Gemara. So that's how we know that Loit's machshavas were raw. Practical Gemara, I mean, it's honest. How can we talk about what his intentions were? He didn't know about the whole thing. They fooled him. They gave him wine, and he didn't realize what was happening. Tanushem Yosi Barabi Chayni Lama Nakat Al Vav Shebekuma Shebechira. There's a nakuda, a dot on top of the vav in the word v'lo yada b'kuma b'shechva v'kuma. It says it by the standing up of the older one. Even though Lot was not aware when he drank and he fell asleep what was going on, when he woke up he realized. So why is he being punished for it? If he first realized afterwards, what did he do wrong? He shouldn't have drank again and then slept with the second daughter. So that's where there was some culpability on the part of Lot. Darash Rabba, Ma'idachsev es nafsha mikiryas es nifsha mikiryas ois. That I'm sorry, och nifsha mikiryas ois. The brother rebelled from a kirya, a town of strength. Umadinim kivriach Armin, and those revolting were like a briach armin, like the bolt they used to secure a gate. This is Lot shepirsh me Avram. Lot was like a brother to Avram, so ach nifsha that he rebelled, so Lot left Avram. Madinim kivriach Armin, and the Medinim is a lashon, Rashi says, of fighting. Medinim kibriach amen, they fight like a strong lock. Shetel Medinim ben Yisrael la'amen, caused machloikas between the Yidden and Amen. Shenem aliyavi amayni meyavi b'kal Hashem, because of Loit's being bar on his daughters. So it made it that we made, the Rebbeinu Shalom made a rule, liyavi amayni umayavi b'kal Hashem. Dorish Rav Vitim Rabbi Yitzchak, Maidich Siv, Latava Yivakesh Nifrad Beval Bechol Toishia Yiskalea. When someone Latava, when someone is desires to be secluded, in every Bechol Toishia, in every place of learning, he'll be revealed. Latavi Yavakesh Nifra, to the one who is Misava, in seclusion. He separated himself from Avram, which was a bad thing for him. Avram was the Gadol Adar, and he wanted to go his own way. Bechol Tashi Yiskala, that it will be revealed in every place of learning. That everyone will know of the busha of Amen and Moav. The Tanna Me'avi Yasurim Isser Olam. Amayni Me'avi are usher to join Klal Yisrael forever. Va'amar Ula. Tomer zinsa v'zimri zina. Tamar, by the Maisa with Yehuda, was Mizana with Yehuda. She was not married, and she waited on the Prashas Drachim. And Zimri was Mizana, and it caused Pinchas to be Mekana and kill him. Tamar zinsa yatsa mimena malachim u'neviim. Tamar had coming from her David HaMelech and Neviim. Zimri's in naflu kamer voice Yisrael, but Zimri's nus caused many tens of thousands of Yidden to be killed. We see that a Avera Lishma is greater than a mitzvah Shaloi Lishma. Very big chiddush, right? That you can do an Avera if it's done for the right reason, that's even better than a mitzvah which is done Shaloi Lishma. Shenema, Tevorach Minashem Yal, Eishes Chaver Akeni. Minashem Ba'ayel Tevorach. Yael, who killed Sisra by seducing him, she is more gebenched than the Nashim Ba'ayel Tevorach. She's going to get bigger blessings than the Nashim Ba'ayel. Man inu Nashim Ba'ayel. Who are the Nashim in the Ayel? Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah. This is the Imois. It's saying, in some sense, Yael had a bigger bracha than the Imois. How could you say that the Avera that she did is greater than a mitzvah lishma? A mitzvah shaloi lishma is still a mitzvah, and we're encouraged to do a mitzvah shaloi lishma. So while it could be, it's wonderful that she did her. She did them. It was good that she did an Avera lishma for a good reason. But still, a mitzvah is the schar of a mitzvah is incalculable, and a mitzvah shaloi lishma is also a good thing. Zak Gemara, Eimaka mitzvah shaloi lishma. Don't say that it's better than a mitzvah shaloi lishma, but it's equal. Aver lishma is equal to a mitzvah shaloi lishma. Amar Rav Yochanan, Sheva b'ilas ba'al oisei rasha ba'oisei shah. Sisera was born Yal 7 times. Shnema ben Raglea, Korah, Nofel, Shochav, the 7 Lashonis that are mashma abila. How can we say that she didn't avera lishma for a good reason and therefore she is she gets a big schar, but l'chayr she had hana, and one is not allowed. This is a very common, a big Indian question of being over whether someone karka olam, whether Isha is allowed to submit to Be'ila. But now I think it's just saying. I think it's just saying now that how could you say that she's how could we darshan that she's bigger than the Imayis if she did something that she had enough from? Lamaisa, even though she had a good machshava, but she did an avera, which she was misana from, it doesn't seem reasonable that should be greater than the Imayis. Since she's a tzaddikas, she had no hana, her distress was so great that she had no physical hana from it. Like we said before, person should be Isaac and Torah mitzvahs, even shaloi lishma, because we'll bring him to lishma. Shebeschar membeis karbanos shehikru balak harasha, because of the 42 karbanos that balak harasha that we learned in Parshas Balak, he kept on bringing karbanos to try to bring about the downfall of the Yidden. Zachav yatzimenu rus, he was zaycha, even though his intentions were bad, he still had rus come out. Amar Rabbi Yosef Reb Chanina, rus bas benoy shel eglain, be benoy shel balak melech mayev. Rus was the descendant of Eglain, who was the descendant of Balak, Melech Mayev. Amar Chi bar Abba Rav Yochanan, minayin she'ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu mekapeach afilu schar sicha noah. Where do we know that Rebbe Shalom does not wash away or wipe away or forget about even speaking in a refined manner? Mehacha. We learn it from this Maisa of Light and his daughters. The ilu bechira dekayim Mayev. It says about Mayav that the Bechira, the older sister, said she named her son Mayav because it's from my father, which is a crass way of naming a child. It's a reference to the incest. One shouldn't do so. So Torah says about her that the Rebbe Shalom said, "Don't al-tatras Mayav al-tiska ba Muhammad. Don't enter into war with Mayav." But anything less than war, you could do. You can bother them. But you can oppose them. The younger daughter, the Karya Ben Ami, which is a more refined way of calling it doesn't say Milchama, it says any kind of harassing them is not allowed. Person should always try to be the first to do a mitzvah, because we see by the daughters of light that the older daughter who was born her father the first night and had a child, which was a good thing to do, she was zeicha that she got a descendant to be a melech 4 dairis before her sister. Zakrashi B'Yisrael Oivad Yishai David Shloima Yilutzir Leihav Yisrael Ad Rechavam ben Shloima. The younger daughter was Rechavam, who was a descendant of hers. Rechavam was from Ammon. Rechavam's mother was from Ammon, while Moav got 4 generations earlier from the even though obviously David was the first melech from there, but they all were like had a yichus after David. Ton Rabban. Me'am Haaretz prat l'Mashiach. Me'am Haaretz prat l'Nasi. The pasuk says legabi the chatas kavua. The regular chatas, when someone doesn't have a b'shoigig, it says Me'am Haaretz. So that excludes the Kohen Gadol, and it excludes the Nasi, that the Kohen Gadol brings par Kohen Mashiach, and the Nasi brings the Soyer instead of the Sira Kisva. Why does the Torah have to tell you this? Me'ama Aretz to exclude them. We already said we have the parshias of each one that tells you what you bring. Why do we have to say Me'ama Aretz and not the Nasi and the Kohen Gadol? I might have thought Mashiach al Helam Dover. Shigas Maisa maybe par. Al Shigas Maisa Luchudei maybe Kitzbu Sira. I would think that the Kohen Gadol's din, that we say that it brings a par Kohen Gadol, is only when it's Nelam Halamas Dover, when he forgets the halacha and then does the Maisa. But if he just has a Shigas Maisa, maybe he brings the regular carbon chatas kavua. Tamalay Ma'aretz prat l'Mashiach. My Ma'aretz prat l'Nasi, and what about Legabi the Nasi? Teinach Mashiach el Nasi b'Shigas Maisa hu de Maisi. But that's not going to work for the Nasi, because the Nasi brings his Sawyer for Shigas Maisa. We're talking about where the Nasi ate a Kazayas Chaylev before he was appointed, and then he became appointed as Nasi. And afterwards he became aware that he had done the Aveira that requires he ate Chaylev. I might think, since he first found out about that, since he did the Maisa before he was Nismana, he should bring a regular Chatas Kavua, Kamash Malon. So that's only good according to Rav Shimon, that he says Taka, because the Yediyah first came after he was Nismana, so you can no longer bring either one. You can't bring the Kisvu Sira of a Chatas Kavua, because he first found out about it after he became a Kohen Gadol, and he can't bring the Par Kohen Gadol, either because there wasn't with a Nelam, but also because he didn't have the Maisa when he was a Kohen Gadol. So that makes sense. That's why we need a pasuk to exclude this. The Rabbanan they don't care when he becomes aware. It only depends when he did the Maisa. He should bring the Chatas Kavua. Elam Rav Zid Mishmei the Rava Hachmaiskinan. He ate half of a kazayis of chaylev before he became a nasi. V'nisman, and then he was appointed. V'shlimar, and then afterwards he ate the other half of the kazayis. And then he found out about it after he was already nisman, and after he ate the whole thing, then he found out. I might think in that case maybe you should, since he didn't even since he didn't even have a whole a whole kazayas prior to being nismana, so it should be able to be mitzaref the second half, the half that happened after his yediyah. I'm sorry, his yediyah. Why is it? Hold on. What's the svarah? Now I'm thinking about it. It's not making so much sense. Let me see the Rashi. Tell me it's starif chatzi zayis basra l'chatzi zayis kama v'laisi kispa isira. Let him bring a kisva isira. What's the svara? I don't understand why this is better than if he ate a whole kazayas before. We're asking in the chachamim. We're saying, because the chachamim we say we don't care about the yediyah. But over here there's a second problem. Besides the yediyah, he was nismana before the chatzi. So we want to say in the rabbanon they're not interested in the yediyah, they're just interested in when he did the chait, but the chait itself was split. Maybe you could be mitzdarif what happened after he was nismana, since it was only chatzi kazayis. So kamash malon as no. Bar minei Rav Meir of Nachman. Nesias ma'u shetafsek. What's the din whether if someone becomes a nasi, if that should ruin his chatas kavua that he was mechuyev to? What's the case? Shetafsek. Hechidami. What's the case? He was a hedget, and he ate a chatzi zayis in ismana va'avar. He was appointed as the nasi, and then he immediately lost his job. Bishlimu, and then he ate the other half of kazayis. All this l'chayr has to be b'toich kedei achilas pras in order for him to be chayiv. So this all happened very quickly. So hasam hu d'loy mitzvah of the achila pal gushu hedju pal gushu nasi. In the first case, we said that the chachamim say kamash malon that he still doesn't bring the kisva siri, he doesn't bring the chatas kavua, because half of the kazayis was eaten while he was a nasi. Both halves happened when he was a hedjed. It was just in the middle, he was a nasi for a short period of time. His eating should be mitzdarf. Or maybe there's no difference. So Gemara, Mai, what's the din? Let's bring a rye from this. Someone ate chelev, and he separated a carbon for his shaygig. He ate chelev b'shaygig, and he has to bring a carbon chatas b'hamir. And then he became a mummer. He became someone who's over averis. As we're gonna discuss what a mummer exactly is. And then he did tshuva. We say since there was a time that he was a mummer, a mummer is not allowed to bring a carbon chatas. He's not roy to get a kapara, so he can't bring the carbon chatas. So since there was a period after he separated the carbon that the carbon was not able to be brought, the carbon is nidcha and it can no longer be brought. So we want to say the same thing over here. There was a period of time while he was a nasi that he couldn't bring that carbon. So let's say the ability to bring a chatas kavua is dachli. So mummer la barisuya carbonu. A mummer is not someone who's capable of bringing a carbon. So that's daicha. Hi barisuya carbonu. This nasi, he's able to bring a carbon. He just has a different carbon for a certain period of time. But he's able to bring a carbon, so that's not a dicha. Dicha has to be, he's not able to bring a carbon at all. Someone who ate something that is a safek chelik, which would normally bring asham tali, v'nismana, and then he became appointed as kohen gadol, and then he finds out that he had possibly eaten chaylev while he was a hedjit, that would be mechayiv him asham tali. Mao. Aliba the rabban da azli basar chata loiti ba'elach. The ma'isi asham tali. Certainly he'll bring asham tali according to the rabban, because everything happened while he was a hedjit, and the fact that he found out later is irrelevant. Aliba the Reb Shimon. Medishtani levada yishtani l'safed. Even according to the Rabban, to Rav Shimon, who says we care about the Haidah. Do we say, so his Haidah certainly happened after he became Kohen Gadol. But do we say, but a Kohen Gadol also brings Ashram Tali. I'm sorry, not a Kohen Gadol, a Nasi. A Nasi brings an Ashram Tali. So what should be the difference? The question is, do we say, since he has the Ashram Tali grows out of his Chiyuv to bring a Chatas Kavua? If he would have known for sure, he'd bring a Chatas Kavua. So since his Chatas Kavua that he would have brought, maybe we say, since had he done it, if he was sure that he had done this Aveira B'Shaygig, he would bring a different carbon. Do we say the Ashram Tali is separated into two separate parts? We don't have a full Ashram Tali. Part of it was for a Chatas Kavua that would have been a Kisvai Seira, and part of it was Ashram Tali for a Chatas Kavua that would have been a Sar of the Nasi. Carbon Didei. Or do we say no? Just the only thing that changes is the Ashram Vadai. I'm sorry, the Chatas Kavua Vadai. But the Ashram Tali is irrelevant what the Chatas Kavua would have taken. Tanraban, Me'am Aretz, we said from the Pasuk says, the Pasuk of Chatas Kavua. It says Me'am Aretz. Prat lemumar. That excludes a mumar, doesn't bring a Chatas Kavua. He leaves it from a different pasuk. The pasuk says when he does one of the mitzvahs Hashem Asher which you shouldn't do b'shgaga by mistake v'ashem, and he's guilty. Hashav midiyasei maybe carbon al shigasei loisha midasei any maybe carbon liyadiyasei. We says Asher loisei asenu b'shgaga. It has to be that had he known, he wouldn't have done it. But if he would have done it anyway, then he's not going to bring a carbon Chatas Kavua. So that's why a mummer doesn't bring a Chatas Kavua. My benayu, what's the difference whether you learn it out from Me'am Aretz or from the fact that he's not Shav Miyadiyasai? We're talking about someone who's a mummer. He eats chaylev, but he doesn't do any other averis. And this person went and ate dam b'shoigig. So Marsa we keeping the mumalechel chaylev l'dam nami havi. According to the first Manda Amar, from the Rishimber Yosi says, I'm sorry, no. The Tanakama says we learn a Me'ama Aretz. So this is a mummer. It doesn't make a difference what it's for. He's a mummer, so therefore he doesn't bring a carbon. Marsa v'dami yashav mi diyasehu. If he would have known that it was dam, he wouldn't have eaten it because he's careful about them. But we have a clear member from Rava that he says that they're not chaylik. These tanoim are not chaylik. If he's a mummer to eat chaylev, he's not considered mummer legabi dam. He will bring a carbon chatas if he eats dam b'shoigig. So which seems to be like the second shot that he's shav mi yidiyas. Since he would be shav mi yidiyas, if we know about it, he'd be chayzer that he brings it. The Bryce, this member is saying, this is talking about a different thing. We're talking about what they're really arguing about is where someone ate something. He's someone who is a mummer to eat nevelus l'teyaven. He will eat things that are treiv l'teyaven. And the nevela here we mean like chela, for example, that he would eat it l'teyaven, but it was mixed up. He only ate it because it was mixed up with something that was kosher, and he ate that. Masa v'kiven de l'teyaven achel b'mezid mumahu. One man, the Manda Amar who says me'am aretz. So he says he's considered a mummer because even since he would eat it, even though it's l'tei oven, even though he's doing it only because of his desire, he's not an atheist. He just has a strong yitzhara. He's considered a mummer. Since he be shav mi the yasai, because he he doesn't really want to eat treif, but he just has a strong Yetzer Hara, he's not considered a mummer. Tana Rabban. Ochel chaylev zeu mummer. Someone who eats chaylev is a mummer. Bezu mummer, and what's a mummer? Oichel nevelus utreifus skashim ramasim b'shasa yayin nesach. There's a very strange memory. We said what's a mummer? Someone who eats chaylev, and then we say what is a mummer? One who eats all these disgusting things. Yehuda Aimer Afa Loivish Klein. If Yehuda adds on, also someone who is Loivish Klein is also a mummer. Amamah. Micah Amar, what is this saying? Doesn't make any sense. Someone who eats chaylev out of desire, that's a mummer. But someone who does it intentionally, he's doing it, he doesn't believe, it's not his Yetzer Hara, he's worse. So they bring on the side in the Mesiris Hashas and other Mefarshim that they replace the word stuki with min. Min is the word that we often used. We used throughout Avodah Zarah to refer to someone who is lax, who's Avodah Avodah Zarah essentially. Stuki doesn't really fit. Stuki is someone who believes like this whole alternate Torah. Probably something to do with censorship. But in any case, someone does a lahachitz is worse than a mummer. A mummer has, it's under some circumstances can shecht an animal. If we're watching over it, we could accept a shchita, but a min or a stuki we can't. Ve'ezui mummer ve'ezahu mummer the bistamai stuki havi. And what is considered a mummer that would generally be, what does that mean? Ve'ezuhi mummer, I guess that's generally treated as a min. That means who is considered lahaches? All these things are unattractive. There's no temptation to eat them. They're all disgusting. Even yayin nesach, and yayin nesach is avodah zarah, so it gets lumped in, even though it's not exactly the same as the others, but it's directly avodah zarah, which is what a min really is. He's someone who worships something else. So those are considered stuki or a min as opposed to a mummer. He says also loivish klaim. Why is he adding klaim? He's coming to add that if someone is lahaches, wears klaim, not out of temptation, but lahaches. He says since he's just been given under rabbanon, he's not a mummer. He says since everyone knows that it's asur and the person is going ahead, it doesn't make the point is what his mindset is. His mindset makes him into a mummer. It's not that it's the rabbanon. Everyone knows you're not allowed to wear klaim. One says the lahachas is also a mummer. So what is it stuki? He says the only way to become a minor at stuki is to be avodah. But all these things that we said before, lahachas doesn't make a person into a stuki. Meisvei. Ochal parvash echad or yatush echad, one kind of a fly or a bug. He's a mumma. How we just said that it's only avodah zarah, but lahaches. This is how are we calling this a mummer? This should be according to the first shot that we said. We're not talking about the previous one, but we said that anyone who does something lahaches is it stuki, and no one wants to eat a bug. The kakari le mummer. So like tomorrow, hasam da'amar etam tam di'isura. This I think we'll all understand. The person, even though one would say a bug is disgusting, but it's just like, people who become fry, the first thing they want to do is eat a cheeseburger, even though they had no taste in a cheeseburger, but they want a cheeseburger because they want to taste the forbidden fruit. So since it's asur, that makes it l'tei oven. So they're not going to be considered a stuki or a min just from eating something, which is hard. Then the question becomes, how can anyone ever be lahaches? He says, I'm doing it because I want to be toyim the tam of Isura. I guess if he does it a second time, then it's no longer Tam D'Isura. Then it's already, he's just enjoying himself. Okay. Do you mind going to the Mishnah on Amud Beis? So we can, because just whatever we don't do today, we're going to have to do tomorrow and Monday. We really. So let's try to push through a little bit more. Vezu nasi zem melech. A nasi that we brings the sar of nasi is the melech. Tanraban nasi yachal nasi shevet connection benamidan. Maybe it means thus the head of a shevet. How do we know it means a king? Tamalem komitz Hashem elikov. So since it's saying, it says by the melech, by the nasi, it's Hashem elikov. Malalon she'en la'gava vela Hashem elikov. Af nasi she'en la'gava vela Hashem elikov. Means there's no one above him other than the Rebbe Shalom. That's not the nasi of a shevet because he has the king over him. Ba'amine Rebbe Merabchia Goin ani Mao Besar. Rebbe asked Reb Chia, what is the Maidin? Am I considered a nasi that brings the sar? You're only the nasi in Eretz Yisrael, but there's another tzara to you. There's someone equivalent to you in Bavel, so you're not considered a nasi. We see by the Malchus Beit David and the Malchus Yisrael that they do. You can have dual nasiim. Amalei hasam loy kaifi hadadi. Over there, they're both equal. Hacha anan kaifin luhu. But he said, oh, but you, Rebbe, you are underneath Bavel. Anan kaifin luhu l'didu. Rav Safra masni hachi. Rav Safra had this version. Bo minei Rebbe Chia. K'goyin ani ma'u besari. He asked the same question. Amalei hasam shevet. Hacha m'chaykik. He said to him, we're not the same as in Bavel. They are a shevet. They are a true ruler. We're just a mechaykik. Shevet is the rod, is the scepter of Malchus. We're just, the Torah calls us a mechaykik, which is just the way of saying a Talmud Chacham. The Tanya Liyasu Shevet Yehuda Zer Roish Goyla Shebavel. That's the Reish Galusa. Sheroides Yisrael b'Makal, that he rules over the Yidden with a stick. That's talking about the Rebbe, the descendants of Hillel, that they are Rosh Hashivas, but they're not the same level of ruling. Okay, we'll stop over here. But we're going to really